Well, hey everybody. Hey, happy Tuesday. Had to think about it. Happy Tuesday. Thanks for joining. So, today I wanted to remind you that we are going to be watching, well, this week aired the season 4 finale of Bet on Black, which is the show that we're on right now on Revolt TV. They partnered up with Target for this season, maybe previous seasons, I don't remember, but definitely this season, to feature 5 amazing companies and their founders, numerous founders. And they're all such amazing founders and amazing businesses. So definitely check those out and check out the episode. If you haven't seen the on Revolt, then you are more than welcome. Hey there, you're more than welcome to join on YouTube. So I'm really excited. We have Chef Leigh. Oh, there she is. Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Wherever you are, it looks like fall.
I am posted up in a hotel room for the next couple of days, so I'm
um,
hanging out outside.
okay, because behind you it's so nice. There's like trees reflected, so it's giving fall, and you got like the jacket for fall. It's hot here, so it's fake fall. It is fake fall here in New Orleans, which is surprising
Oh,
to me this year because usually it's kind of cool by now, but it's not. But
I
you
get
know,
that.
but thank you so much for joining. I really do appreciate you taking the time. Busy schedule. But this is really great. I know October, we're kind of late, but we've been featuring some different facts and information for Eczema Awareness Month, and nutrition plays such a huge role in that. Diet, stress, all of it. And so I was just really excited to get a chance to talk to you about all of the things that we are that you do, and the all the ways you give back to the community, uplifting women, uplifting people, making us healthier, mind, body, and soul, and your journey also in entrepreneurship, also because you are an entrepreneur. So we'll dive into it. If you could please give us a little background on how you got into being a chef, being a nutritionist. Like, how did this journey end up where it is today?
Honestly, I went to school because I wanted to become a doctor, and life kind of did its thing, and I shifted and I got my degree in nutrition instead and business management.
Oh,
Um, in the middle of working with clients, they kept complaining about how they never want to cook anything, even though they were given all the tools to do so. And a few of them happened to know that I really enjoyed cooking. It's one of my love languages. So I got tricked into cooking. And I got tricked into cooking for the right people. Let's put it that way.
okay.
And one of the people was someone who worked at a local HBCU. And then I got tricked into cooking for my pastor and then for one of the mayors. And I just kind of soared from there. So
That's amazing. So next thing you know, your clientele is like racking up.
very, very, very fast, which I'm
Wow.
super grateful for sure. But at the end of the day, my love and what God placed me on this earth for was to help, or is to help people find their own version of healthy. And if I have to start with cooking for them first, I'm okay with that.
I love that. Do you have like a favorite meal of your own?
Um, So not really. I think it's more about what others have deemed as what they feel is their favorite that I cook for them. So then that's kind of the thing that I'm drawn to.
Yeah.
So I get asked to cook quite a bit: lobster macaroni and cheese, filet mignon, and Brussels sprouts. So that's like the go-to meal that everyone wants. And then like
Nice.
the dessert is typically either creme brulee,
Mm,
cheesecake, or banana pudding. So I just
mm,
cook that like a lot, whether it's on a small scale or a large scale.
uh,
So I'll say that's my go-to meal. But I'm pretty much blessed with the ability to cook everything. The only things that I stay away from is Mexican, Indian,
mm.
and French food.
Okay.
Um, French because I don't bake.
Okay. Okay.
And then Indian, I just haven't figured out the layers and the tones yet.
Mm,
And then Mexican, no shade, but
yeah.
their food is meant to be not full of flavor, but full of fire.
Mm,
And I love heat food,
yeah.
but I am traditionally a person who cooks with flavor. So I don't want to mess up their cuisine, so I just stay away from it.
Interesting. So, do you have like when it comes to food preferences, there's one thing, but then there's a lot of folks who have like allergies to it's gluten or it's dairy or it's sugar or whatever. Do you find it challenging sometimes to like make something that they're asking for, but with their needs in mind when it comes to their diet, or the things that they're telling you they need versus the things they're asking, like the things you know they need versus what they're asking you for?
So that's a
Need
two-part
this,
question.
but I'm asking for
Yeah.
XYZ.
So I have two answers to that question. So one, if anyone knows me, they know I love a challenge. I pivot really well. God gave me the spirit of pivoting like nobody's business. Um, so when you give me a lot, I actually enjoy that because it makes me utilize not only my education, it makes me use my creativity, and just kind of really just figure out like how can I make you a believer of something that you didn't think was possible when it comes to food.
Mm,
So that's the first part of that answer. The second part of the answer is no, it's not complicated at all when you have the education behind it.
mhm.
So I had to be convinced
Okay.
by a dear friend and a former client, Samantha Lee. She's a really good friend, and she was a former client of mine. She had to tell me, like, Leigh, you're a unicorn, own your unicorn, right? And it
That.
took me a really long time for me to understand what she meant by that. And after a while, I started to understand like most chefs, yes, they go to culinary school. Yes, they're given nutrition education, but it's at a fairly basic level to a higher level, depending on where you go and how long you've been in culinary school. So they don't have a degree in nutrition. And then from a chef side or a culinary side, um, I'm sorry, from the nutrition side, most nutritionists don't cook or don't like to cook.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
so for me, I happen to be a unicorn because I am both on top of a few other hats that I happen to wear because of things I'm really good at when it comes to the nutrition space.
Yeah. Well, that's really good for one, because you have to have clients, I feel, that are like, I just don't know and I need the education. And I also don't have the time to do it for myself. So that works out. When you were going from corporate to chef and entrepreneurship, like what were some of the lessons you learned so that way people understood that value? Like, look, this is what I do and I do it really well. Or was that ever even a challenge? Like building your client base and sharing your story and the marketing and the business building side of it.
So initially, it wasn't really a challenge because I took a lot of the lessons that I learned in corporate America and implemented it in my business, which I was super grateful for. Um, but then I kind of stepped back a little bit and I started to focus on other aspects with my partner. And so I kind of lost a little bit of that. And then trying to re-pick it back up as I was rebranding and moving my brand or moving my brand around a little differently. Um, I actually became even more grateful, but it became a little bit more of a challenge because I never really lost the mentality of being a corporate woman. So sometimes people take that as me being like mean, and it's just no, I'm stern, and there's rules and there's guidelines in corporate America, and this is how we
Yeah.
operate, and this is how I know how to move. So it becomes challenging when you're not dealing with a traditional client who already works in a corporate America space,
Yeah.
and so they just take you a little different. But I'm grateful for the experiences I had. Like that's one thing that I'll never like throw shade at. Like I will tell anyone, even my kids, like get a regular 9 to 5 type of job first because you learn so much structure, you learn so many things that you can implement, and then you can go and have your own business because you know how to implement those things into your business. But for the most part, it wasn't challenging. It was just something I was super grateful for because it helped me learn how to maneuver my business better.
I can see that. And that's really good because we hear as entrepreneurs who have not been in corporate, like maybe just the traditional, like, teaching, banking, things like that, but not like the corporate structure. It's interesting that you hear like one side of corporate and that frustration. I don't feel seen. I don't feel heard. You hear that a lot, but
Yeah.
you don't always hear like I learned this skill and that skill and I know that the language and I have this particular way of structuring how I see things. So I love to hear that. In corporate too, I know one of the we're kind of in the middle right now because pitching to corporate companies for product is a lot different for service-based businesses. But from what I understand with service-based businesses, there is an opportunity to grow your service through pitching corporations. So can you give some feedback or some tips on that for those who are going to be going that route? Like what should they maybe focus on, or who should they focus on in the company where they can actually move the needle forward and get their foot in the door?
So I'm going to be very honest and transparent. I've been so blessed to have people that have surrounded me, and I've either cooked for or I've educated on something. And because they enjoyed or appreciated whatever it was, they've passed me off to a lot of the right
That's
people,
great.
right? But because I've just recently moved to the West Coast, I have don't have those same I don't have those same people surrounding me. So I'm having to do all of the legwork and all of
Mm,
it on my own.
yeah.
So I had to really understand not only who my audience is, like you hear all the time, understand your niche, understand your niche, understand your audience, right? And a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we get really frustrated hearing that. I'm like, my product and my service is for everyone, right? But
Yeah, we
it's
need to leave someone out. Like we might need that customer.
exactly. But in all honesty, that really is true. If I didn't take the time to really understand who my audience is, really understand the levels of where I want to take my business, even if it's not already there, then I wouldn't understand how to move and who to look for. So for me as a service-based business, anything that's dealing with the healthcare industry, your HR is it. You need your HR director, each HR manager. So for anyone who's doing anything in the mental health space, the active space, the food space, insurance space, like anything around that, HR is your best friend. Like that's who you have to go for, but you have to really understand what it is that you're bringing to the company, and you have to have a lot of confidence for them to understand why they should spend a lot of money on you. Because if you come at them with like, oh, I won't charge you a lot, or oh, I'll just give it to you free,
Mm,
that's already telling them that you don't believe enough in yourself. And I don't feel the need to even bring you in, even if it is for free.
that's real. Like I've heard this delusional confidence, but sometimes it's just like true faith. It's just faith.
Yes.
And I know that's one of the things and that's really great advice because we all know the realities of what we're dealing with within our business. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's hard to get past that when you're pitching outside of your organization and it's time to bring people in. And I know I have certainly, and I still to this day have to make sure my mind is like focused on the strengths, the positives, the opportunities, because they don't know what you're dealing with. They don't need to see all the little details of the problems. And maybe we know you pitch as if it were. Period.
Exactly.
Period.
You can't show forms of weakness when it comes to large corporations. It doesn't make sense. You are dealing with way too many alpha men and women,
Mm.
and they don't understand weakness at all.
Ooh, that's a word. That's real. And I like that. I'm going to use that clip and I'm going to share it a lot. I just want you to know. So, one of the things that you shared a little bit, and I would love for you to, however comfortable you are, to talk about your faith journey. And is it right that you have epilepsy, or was that something that you dealt with in the past?
I have not. I have been diagnosed with epilepsy at the age of 12. Apparently, I've had it my entire life and I didn't know it, which is kind of a longer story. But yes, I am an epileptic driver. I still have what we call petite malls, which are more of like what we call staring fits. Um, but I used to have a lot of grand malls when I was a lot younger, and I grew out of those after my second child.
Wow. Wow. So did food ever play a factor? Did doctors ever say that food played a factor? Like, how does that work? Educate me, please.
Okay, so no one ever physically told me until after I had already changed my diet. So around I think it was the sixth or seventh grade, I was about 12, 13 years old. I started having seizures. And at first, they didn't understand where they were coming from or why they were there. And until people started explaining some situations that were going on around me. So I grew up in the foster care system for a short but yet long period of time of my life. Um, and so they felt like the seizures were coming from traumatic
Mm-hmm.
situations. And I had just lost also the most important person in my life at the time. So initially, they were just thinking it was coming from that. But after talking to family members and starting to realize I was constantly having them throughout the course of the month, they started running more tests. And after a decent amount of tests, they realized that I always had seizures.
Wow.
Well, fast forward, um, I had a seizure that left my entire left side of my body completely paralyzed. And yeah, and I was 14, I believe. And I happened to be laying in the hospital. Shout out to Stony Brook Hospital in Long Island, New York.
That-
um, Really great hospital. But I happened to be laying in the bed and I was listening to doctors just around me talking, but they weren't inside my room. And they were just talking about how there is a specific type of diet that could probably minimize epilepsy. And I didn't know what it was. I didn't ask questions. I just was like, well, I'm just going to change the way I eat. I already went to a school that they ate different anyway. So I was like, I'm just going to eat what I felt was appropriate. And I stopped eating meat. I started increasing my vegetables and my fruits. I didn't take in as much junk food just on my own. Like that was just a me thing.
Wow.
And no one in my family eats anywhere like I do, even to this day.
Mhm.
My partners, my personal partners, my business partners, like no one eats like me, just me. But I made that decision and I also started to realize because of that, it started to minimize the amount of seizures that I was having. So I chose to stay that way my entire life. Um, but the only time I ate meat was while I was pregnant with my kids.
Mhm.
My body just craved it. So I
And you
went
live
with my
in
cravings.
Hawaii? Yeah.
Yeah, but outside of that, I haven't eaten meat since I was in like the sixth or seventh grade.
Wow. So it was just like a personal epiphany when they kind of mentioned it, and they never said anything to you directly. That's wild.
No. So you have to remember neurology is a baby in the medical field, first off. So we're just talking about the entire neurological system. That's your spinal cords, your nerve endings, your brain. That's completely new to this medical industry. As much as people don't think it is, it is.
Thing.
So then when you partner that, and then when you partner epilepsy to it, which is even more newer in the as far as from people just studying it,
Yeah.
there's so much that they didn't know and how to handle, how to maneuver. I mean, at one point in time, I was told I had psychosomatic seizures. It's not even a real thing.
Wow.
Like, that's how much, like, there's just so much they didn't know. So to really sit down and break down to a 12, 13, 14-year old and say, hey, if you eat this way, this is going to minimize this and it's going to give you back this, like, that wasn't happening.
Wow. So it just was meant for you to kind of start the nutrition journey early.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. I think one of the things I've learned about, which was really from kind of doctors telling me that I was making stuff up about my body, um, and just not knowing enough, like going with eczema, for example, or seborrheic dermatitis, going to dermatologists, it's like, oh, you have this, here's this, and like out the door, but no
Right.
education, no background on what is eczema, what is seborrheic dermatitis, what is dermatitis, what
Right.
is skin. Like, give me the education. Like, I really, as a kid, I would have loved to know because I like science. but I didn't know. So I just was like, oh, this is the stuff they gave me. It should work. It should do something. But it wasn't until I did some research on my own and reading about protein and not just sugar, and gluten and inflammation and how it comes out through the body and things we should or should not eat, and just trying these different things on my own, learning about digestive enzymes, probiotics. Are those things that kind of come up in some of your client conversations as well, like inflammation in their body, probiotics? Can you tell us what you suggest or what you think about those methods of kind of supplementing our diet?
So it is really, really important. And as much as we hear, even from a fitness standpoint, that, oh, it's 80% in the kitchen and it's 20% in the gym, like we hear it, we hear it, we hear it, but we don't really register that. And part of the reason we don't register that in any level, even from a medical side, is because it's not traditionally coming from someone who looks like you and I. It's just
Mhm.
honest.
That's true.
Like it took a really long time for, even when I first started my business, for me to even put my face
Mm.
and to my business, because
I
we
get
don't
it.
traditionally, as black and brown people, look at another black and brown person to give us health and wellness tips. um, so when you look at that, it makes it really hard for us to say, well, wait a minute, I have this condition you told me about. You want to push me these pharmaceuticals, but you didn't tell me any other ways that I can do something different,
Mhm.
or what lifestyle changes that I can make. So I hear it regularly, even down to something like diabetes, which is so important and so life threatening. And you're told, hey, you have diabetes. Here, take this medicine. Just don't eat a bunch of sweets, so that way we don't have to put you on dialysis, and just move some so you can lose some weight. Like, that's really all the foundation that you're given. So when I have clients like yourself, who I sit down and I do what non-traditional nutritionists don't
Yeah.
do, maybe
Yeah.
more of a dietitian. We have a conversation not only about what your lifestyle looks like around and not around food. What is your relationship with food? What medicines are you on? How are you eating? How are you cooking? How are you spending your days? How are you moving? Do you have a support system? Like, really understanding all of that, so that way I can sit down and say, okay, now based off of all these things, I feel like you need a high fat diet. And traditionally, all we
Mm.
know is salmon, avocados, and maybe some nuts, right? Is
Yeah.
traditionally all we're told. But then we're not told about MTC oil, where it's made from palm instead of just coconut oil, or hemp seeds or hemp milk, or coconut oil instead of olive oil. Like, just knowing like the little things when it comes to that. Or um, anyone who has any type of skin disorder, like also making sure that you're increasing on your probiotics. So not just yogurt,
Yeah.
or not just kefir. What about kombucha? What about fermented
Mm.
beans? ACV, like ACV, or apple cider vinegar, is not just for losing weight or not just from detoxing, but it also helps your skin. Or, you
Mhm.
know, do you have low zinc levels? Do you have low
Mm.
vitamin D levels? Like, just understanding these things and getting the real information. Like, a lot of people just don't have the real information because the doctors or their physicians or the specialists are not giving it to them, or they don't know how to research it on their own. So that's why it's so important to have people around you that are nutritionists and dietitians that can actually have conversations with you and figure out what it is that you specifically need, in order to make sure that there's an internal and a sustainable change to help whatever it is, or aid whatever it is that you have going on from a health standpoint.
Gotcha. And how long should a person expect to be in that, I guess, in that all, I don't want to say like evolution phase, but like when you're really learning, it takes time to get new habits in place. It takes
Right.
time to educate yourself, then to implement what you're learning. Like, how long should people really commit to these types of changes for themselves so that they're not setting themselves up for like, oh, this is going to happen in a month, or this is
Right.
going to, you know what I mean? Like, what have you seen typically where someone should really invest a certain minimum amount of time working with a dietitian or a nutritionist like yourself?
So there's a couple of ways to look at that. I get flack when I say this sometimes, but it's just an honest truth. I will not work with a traditional client who just wants to lose weight, and there's a reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
I only will work with a client who knows the why of their change.
Mm.
So if you are saying, hey, Leigh, I want to figure out how to make a lifestyle change within my nutrition,
Yeah.
and it's because I have eczema and it is keeping me inside. It is not allowing me to want to travel because I'm always inflamed. I
Yeah.
don't feel comfortable in my skin and what I wear. Like, that's a real why you want to change.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because once you have a real why, you don't even need a time frame,
Mm.
like, at all. You already
That's so
know.
real for so many things. So
Like,
real. I'm sorry.
if
Yes.
you really
Amen.
think about that, that's just like if someone goes and, God forbid, hits your car today, and your job every single day is 2 hours away, and you're the only provider in your home, and you have to get to work. You're gonna figure out every means possible to get another form of transportation, because
Yeah.
that's how you're paying your bills. That's your only why, and it matters more than anything. So if you know that you're sick and tired of being in the house because you're uncomfortable with the skin that you're in, and whatever it is that your physician is or specialist is giving you is not working, and you come to me and I'm able to create a plan that works for you, that's enough of a why, and you're gonna stick to it once you see that it's starting to make any type of change,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But then if I was to give someone the traditional answer they're looking for, majority of the clients that I work with me for 6 to 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's because they're getting a lot more than just a nutrition plan from me. They're getting recipes, they're getting grocery lists, they're getting accountability partnership. Like, I'm checking in on you. I'm asking you, what does your day look like today? If you're traveling, I'm helping you find places to eat where it is that
Wow.
you're going. I'm telling you things that you can eat on your menu. Like, I'm not a no person. I'm not getting ready to sit here and tell you, you can't eat this, you
Yeah.
can't eat that, go throw that away. I may give you a strange stare.
And you'll know what that means.
I may give you a mean emoji. No, I'm playing. But I'm going to give you positive reinforcement. I'm going to just tell you, well, why don't you just eat this? Or why don't you try this instead? Or, whatever it is. But, like, I just don't believe that there really is a time frame for things. But whatever I'm working with you on, I'm giving you sustainable actions, so that way you are able to make it through on your own when you can't work with me anymore for whatever the reason is. When you feel like you've gotten enough from me, that's cool. But I've given you enough for you to be able to keep moving and stay on the path that you're looking to stay on.
I love that. And I didn't know that. I guess in a way, yeah, they're kind of like you're kind of doing some life coaching in there too. Like a little like
Definitely.
life coaching. One of the
And a
things
sprinkle
that
of and a sprinkle of prayer.
I love that. And that's where I'm going next. How did you know? Um I talked to, I mean, so many of some of the most amazing people I've gotten to meet in this entrepreneur journey share this sentiment with me that it is certainly a journey, but it is like a not just the emotional roller coaster ride of it all, but it really is kind of like expanding your faith. Like, you really don't get a choice in the matter. It's like you said, when your why is defined
Yep.
and you know the vision and you can't let it go. It just, you can't. Not that you won't, you just can't. It is really like a faith journey, and you really practice it daily
Mm-hmm.
and stretch yourself, when you're working with clients or even for yourself, like, how does that play a role to fight fear of trying new things, or fear of starting, or fear of making that presentation? Like, where does how do you practice that faith to get over some of these hurdles that we go through as entrepreneurs?
So I had a very great foundation when it came to my faith. I am a PK grandkid and kid. So I lived my life in the church. So that's one. But as everyone, like, I definitely have wavered in my life for sure. Um, but I always have found my way back down to the fact that the school I went to was a theological college. That's where I got my degree
Beautiful.
from.
Wow.
I'm rooted in my word when it comes to that. Don't get me wrong, I'm definitely earthly at the same time, but I'm very rooted in my word.
Yeah.
Um, but when it comes to my clients, it is always a conversation. When I started my business in 2017, I had a point in my life where I worked with a client that initially I didn't ask one of the very important questions is where does your faith lie, or what do you believe in? And it caught me, for lack of better words, with my pants down.
Mm.
I did not know how to handle while working with this client, after a while realizing that they were atheists.
Mm.
I didn't know how to work with that client, and I shied so far and so fast away from talking about my faith and how to help guide them through anything dealing with faith that I was embarrassed. Um, so now I'm at a point, fast forwarding, I'm at a point where I make that a conversation. I make it a conversation about where you sit, because we're going to talk about why you need the extra prayer or why you need the extra motivation to push through. We're going to pray together. I'm going to send you scriptures if I feel like that's going to uplift your day. I'm going to send you things because I start my day, and I encourage all of my clients to start their day within reason the same way that I do. I wake up, I pray, I read my Bible, and then I work out, and then I start on my nutrition. Like, I'm very, very detailed about what I eat, and they're already given the tools. I just do mine daily because I know what I don't have to stress over it. Um, but it starts in one place with your faith intentionally, because your faith is what's going to give you the strength to be able to make it through the rest of the day.
Mhm.
You being rooted in your word and being rooted with God is what's going to allow you to get the strength when you're like, ooh, everyone in the office today is eating from Taco Bell and that smells so good. I'm not going to do that today because
I'm
this
standing
is the
firm on my.
plan. Exactly.
Yeah.
Or, oh, we're all going out for drinks today. Ooh, but that alcohol is gonna dry out my inside and just make my skin worse today. So I'm not gonna do that. Like, God's gonna help you literally get through each of those layers. So if you're not talking to God, if you're not rooted in your word, it's gonna make it a little bit more difficult than it needs
Mm.
to be.
I love that you also have Leisms. Am I saying it right? The Leisms.
Yes.
Is there a particular one that you walk with every day, or do you kind of switch it up for yourself depending on what you need? I know we have like our mantras and things like that, but is there a certain Leism that like really walks
The
with?
My biggest one is intentionality is my biggest one. I walk with intentionality through everything, and I strongly, strongly stress that to
Hell,
all
you're
of
like, I
my,
am not joking. Hmm.
like, we have to be intentional. We have to be intentional about how you start your day. You have to be intentional about what you do throughout the course of the day. You have to be intentional about your prayer time or your time with God, whatever that looks like. If it means just listening to songs, that's fine. Like,
Yeah,
I strongly talk about intention. Like, that's my biggest liaison is like intentionality.
I love that. And it's so key. I think as I've gotten busier slash just more intolerant of things that I just don't have time for. Intention, 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 intention. Where I am, who I'm with, why am I here? What is the purpose of this time? How I'm spending that time.
Yes.
So I love that, and that's so real. One of the things I would love for you to do, a little fun one, I guess, it's a little
Okay.
fill in the blank,
Okay.
and say whatever you want to say, and take your time to answer. It is, I wish I knew blank when I was blank.
Ooh. Um, I have I wish I knew, but I don't have a time frame for it.
Okay.
Um, I wish I knew how much I was worth it
Mm,
before I realized I was worth it in
yeah,
every area.
yeah, I like that.
Like, I didn't always think that I was worth being an entrepreneur. I didn't always think I was worth being in charge of helping someone else get to their version of healthy. I didn't always think that I was worth being a mom. I didn't always think that I wish I was the best partner, I didn't always think I was worth a lot of things.
Yeah.
Um, but I got it now.
And can't nobody tell me nothing.
Not at all.
I love that. What are some of your personal, I know you talked about prayer. Is that your main self-care practice? It's just like talking to God?
That, and I don't know if you can see it, but breath work.
It.
So, um, I'm really, really big on breath work. And then let me just explain that, because sometimes
Ooh,
people take it like, oh, you're into crystals, and there's nothing wrong with those things,
sure.
right? But for me, breath work is the way that I take a moment to literally sit in the moment, ground myself, taking a large breath, holding it so I can gather myself, and releasing the a negative of anything that I have going on. And sometimes people think that something's wrong with me, and it's not always about that. Sometimes it's about slowing my heart rate down so that way I can focus.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's about literally, definitely releasing whatever negative is going on around me. Sometimes it is the way I gain clarity. Sometimes it's just how I center myself. Like breath work is another really big thing for me.
I love that. No one's answered that with breath work before. Thank you.
You're
We
welcome.
need that. Tell us about your community work. I know that's something that's also really important to you.
It is. So my grandmother used to take me to senior citizen homes when I was a lot.
You used to
So
do
I
it was so fun.
like I love old, no point intended, but I love old people just for
Me
that reason.
too. They're my favorite. I like the littles and I like the olds.
Definitely. And I didn't even understand why my youngest son was like, "Oh, I love little old people. They're so sweet." You got that from your mom, and now I get it, right? They're so spunky and so unapologetic. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But so it was rooted in me as a child, and I didn't really grab to it until probably like 2013. I started to really realize how much I wanted to be in the community and do things with them. So I've been blessed with the opportunity to work with the Covenant House of Atlanta for unhoused and trafficked youth, teaching them about nutrition in hard and tough space with little to no money, especially because a lot of them are there just for the day, and then they're released back into the community because they don't always have enough housing. So for anyone who is near a Covenant House, please support them. These youth have nowhere to go, and a lot of them it's not by choice, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that, and then I've had the opportunities to work with Walmart Health and the Home Depot backyard. And because of them, I have the largest cold pressed juice class in the entire state of Georgia. And their classes are always free to the community. It is
Nice.
one of my favorite things to do. I get to teach kids as little as 2, and I don't even know how old is old. I think maybe the oldest I've had so far that I know of has been in like their 70s in my class. Um, but they all learn something every time. I have repeaters, which is really cool. So I really love doing that, giving back to the homeless when I have the opportunity to. So every time I cook a meal and there's food left over, I always make sure I go and distribute it to our homeless that are within my route. We
Yeah.
don't throw away food. So like, I just love giving back. I just think part of it is that I realized some of the tough situations I've been in, or tough situations that I could have been in. And if it wasn't for the grace of God and for the grace of others around me, that I wouldn't have been able to get as far as I have gotten. So if I can help in other ways, in other spaces for other people, I figure it out.
Yeah. That is so awesome. I kind of miss that, like going to the senior citizen centers and like hanging out and just things like that. And even with the youth, I work at a school right now, an alternative high
Oh,
school, and I love it.
cool.
I love it so much. But the stories that I hear, I'm just like the ups and the downs, of it all, but the resiliency as well, the resiliency as well. And just reminding them of that, as much as people love talk about all the things that could be better, but reminding them like how tough and how strong, they really are. It's
They
like,
really are. I think, granted, I've never been to an alternative school. That wasn't a challenge of mine.
yeah,
But honestly, no matter what the age is, it doesn't matter if they're middle school or high school. I don't think there's alternative schools for elementary kids anywhere
and
that I'm aware of.
rarely, very rare new
Right.
focused if there is.
Right. But majority of the I feel like one of the biggest reasons that they wind up getting there outside of their behavior is because they never had structure. They never had someone to pay them attention. They never had someone to truly love
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
And I think that stands true no matter how old we are. If we don't have structure, if we don't have someone giving us the attention or the love that in the spaces that we're looking for them, we're going to act out in some form, whether it's acting out by pouting, whether it's acting out by going to sleep or acting out by going to unfortunately harm someone, we're going to show it somehow. So I think
mm,
it's super important for people to really understand like structure is a thing that's needed from the time when we're born until the time that we pass on. And having a person to show you love and affection and to show love and affection to is really important. And our kids need it the most because that's really how they get to those spaces.
yeah. I loved one of your isms. I don't know if I can find it right now, but you were talking about love, and you said something in the terms of, in like, we can, just because we've seen it or experienced it doesn't mean we really know how to receive it. So I thought that was really beautiful. I think I shared it because I was like, I love that. But it's true. It's so true. And when we're talking, and even self-love, when someone is trying to give you that structure and a plan for some discipline and a plan for some self-care, really knowing, like you said, I deserve it.
Yep.
Like, I'm doing this intentionally because I deserve it. I deserve this evolution, this growth in my life. And then I'm going to receive it. Like, making that an intention to receive it. When it is in your face, making it an intention. I hope y'all hear me, and I hope I remember this for myself to receive it. Because usually if
That's
I see it wrong, I'm saying it
complicated.
to myself too, just so y'all know.
No, but if you really think about it, that's really complicated. If you take a person who is such a huge giver, the hardest thing for them to do is to receive. Like it's so hard for someone who's a giver to receive. So, yeah,
It's real.
receive.
Be intentional. Yes. So before you go, I know you do public speaking. You do the juicing, like you talked about. The both a chef, nutritionist. What's next? Like, what's not just like the next thing on the agenda, but like, what's next? Are you doing movies? Are you doing books? Like, where are we going? What's happening?
So there's a couple of things that's next. One of them it'll be my last thing that I say because I was going to release it in 9 days from now, but
Oh,
but it's okay.
okay.
Um because I've been super intentional about it. But anyways, so for me, I actually have a couple of books that are softly out there,
Yeah.
but they're about to be fully out there by the end of the year. So one of them is a corporate wellness book, really getting people in the space of corporate to understand what wellness looks like. That's the space that I came from.
Mhm.
And I got tired of looking everyone around me talking about, I don't have time. I don't know what to do. I don't have the resources, but you have the most money. You have the most time for real, for real.
Yeah.
And you're just being lazy about finding your
That's
resources.
yeah.
So that's one book. And the other book is a juice recipe book.
Oh, I was hoping you would say that. I swear to you, I reached out to someone on TikTok recently because I saw her juicing, and I was like, send me a recipe. I need this recipe. So, okay, I'll be purchasing right here. Right here.
I got
I'm
you.
excited about this.
Thank you. And then I have seasoned my own seasoning line. I've been testing it out on my last couple of events that I've done for the month of September and October.
Awesome.
So I have two seasonings. One has a need the juice book. I got you.
Yes.
It has a sweet smoky flavor to it, but the sweet layer is made with a specific type of sweetener that's healthy, and none of my seasonings have salt in them intentionally, so
Thank
it's
you.
good across the board for health.
Thank you.
I
Because I
got
always
you.
have to read the ingredients before I salt my food. And if there's seasoning that I'm adding, because I'm always like, oh my God, I'm going to make it too salty. Anyway,
Yep,
sorry.
you're good. And then last but not least, so I am getting ready to start a Central America and South America tour. Um, so I am leaving the country next week, and I'm starting my first leg for the first 2 weeks. I was under strict instructions by my oldest son to come home in 2 weeks.
Oh, so cute.
Then I can go back out.
Yes.
Um, so I am starting off in Medellin, Colombia, and
Wow.
I already have been booked for an event, a wellness of speaking event in Colombia, and I'm working on moving around some other events at the moment, and I have a couple of partnerships, which has been super cool as well. Do you need a tour manager?
Somebody wants to come along. I love
We can talk about it. We can talk about it. Um, but my goal is for the rest of 2024 is to move around with intentionality. So I'm be intentionally learning different cultures, learning different languages at a base level, um, learning how to cook other cuisines, learning health and wellness in other cultures, and having the opportunity to connect with people in regards to speaking. I have a lot of great reasons for it, but after having a conversation with a business partner, like I was looking into doing it next year.
it.
Um, but after having a conversation, I went back to the crib and I laid on the couch and I just heard God say, look up now. Look up and find places now that you can go. And so I did that. And like literally, I made a decision. 3 days later, I had a conversation with a friend and I told him, you cannot talk me out of this. I'm doing it because I was told that I'd have to do it, but I need your guidance to make sure I'm doing all the right things and I'm making all the right moves. They gave me all the information that I needed. And then literally like that night, I got an inbox asking, can we talk about doing an event? And I was like,
Wow.
golden, let's go. And then the next day I had a conversation with a business here in Lawrenceville, and they wanted to partner. And I'm looking forward to showcasing their product outside the country, which is super dope. So it's just a whole journey, and I'm super excited about it. And then the last thing is, I will have the first and the only all Black nutrition conference in this entire country,
What?
as of March
Not
of next
kidding.
year.
Oh my God.
Thank
Congratulations.
you.
What? We don't have that? Like,
Every
what?
nutrition expo and conference is partnered with something else. So whether it's
Oh,
nutrition and sports, nutrition and medicine, nutrition and fitness, like there's one a month before mine that is the nutrition and fitness expo. And shout out to my partner, Head to Toe
I
Healing.
love, I
He's one of my sponsors and my partners. So we're
love
getting
it.
ready to do a whole thing next year, and it's
Wow.
literally the first and the only. And we decided to make it an all black and brown expo, or conference at the same time.
That is amazing. Well, they're all amazing, but
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank
Like
you.
the definition of walking in your purpose, right? Like, geez, go ahead.
I literally used to complain so much to my friends. Well, they're more than friends, but like my little family, about how like I want to do this and I can't because I don't have a PR, or I want to do this but I don't
Mm,
know who to reach out to. And they would just kept pouring into me and giving me all these gems and telling me like, stop trying to do what everyone else and be on everyone else's, or the fact that like I just want didn't I know I was bigger than Atlanta. And
mhm.
so I just realized like I had to create my own lane, and I also had to educate people on another way about nutrition, because most people don't understand who nutritionists are, what they do, what their
Uh,
purpose is, and how to implement them in their life at all. And so I wanted to take what I was really good at, what I really knew, where my what my grassroots were, and I wanted to make it even bigger and better, and I wanted to put a focus on it. And it's something that no one else is doing at all in the US, so I will be the first.
first. Come on. What a blessing. Congrats. I'm just grateful to have gotten a chance to talk to you while you have any lick of time left. Woo! We just made the cut. We just made the cut.
Look, God maneuvered things the way that it was supposed to be. I've literally been in 4 states in the last 4 days, and I've driven to every last one of them, literally from the East Coast to the West
Oh
Coast.
my
I was in Louis. I
God.
literally stopped in Louisiana yesterday to take a
No way.
rest
Oh,
as I was coming in today.
wow. Oh my God. I'm very grateful for your time. Thank you for the education, for explaining things to us, sharing your story and your insights. Obviously, all of us are excited for what you have next. I'm just really grateful for your time, and I'm very inspired by your story, like truly
Thank you.
inspired. So thank you so
Thank you.
much. And I know we can follow you on Instagram. Is there anywhere else that people can stay in touch or get in touch, follow your journey, all of the good stuff?
So I'm on all social platforms at the same thing, which is Leigh underscore plain and simple.
Okay.
Um, sorry.
Sure.
Again, that's underscore Leigh underscore plain and simple. Or you can follow me on my website, which is ASO Lifestyle, which is ASOH lifestyle.com. I post events, I post meals, um, and you can find candle. I have candles. I've had those for a little while as well. They're actually
Oh,
intentional candles.
I love
Um, my candles on there. The seasons will be up there. I have a free version of the lightweight juice book that's up there. So if you follow, add yourself to my newsletter,
nice.
you can get the free version of it. So yeah, like
Oh,
you can
that
follow me
out.
on all platforms.
We'll email that out too. So in case, because I know, like I said, with skincare and nutrition, especially eczema specifically and nutrition, it all goes together. So I'm certainly going to share that in addition to some of these amazing, beautiful clips and gems that you shared. So thank you again.
You're welcome.
Um, all the best on this trip that you're about to take and all the fun stuff that's going to happen. Um, please, 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 anything that we can do to continue to support in our own little way, please let us know. Please keep us. I am subscribed. I do believe I subscribed. If not, I have to make sure I subscribe so I can stay up to date. But thank you again, and wishing you all the best.
Thank you so very much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being patient with me
Oh,
and half like chasing me down. I really appreciate your patience.
all
I
good.
know I don't always have that. So thank you.
All good. Well, thanks again, and I will follow up with you so you have all the clips and content for yourself and your team. So you'll hear from me hopefully in the next few days. It probably won't take me that long, but either way, all the best and safe travels.
Thank you so very much. Have a wonderful
All
day.
right, bye. Thank
Bye.